In a front-end world dominated by React and other UI frameworks, it's easy to forget the power you get in vanilla JavaScript. Today, I want to explore the new custom event constructor. Now, this not only allows you to fire any event you want, but you can bubble it up higher up in the DOM tree. You can pass along actual data to it as well, so that that captured event includes data from whatever thing you've clicked on or interacted with. Now, we're going to show this off with a very basic cart example. An e-commerce site is mostly static. You just have a couple of items that might need to be updated, and wouldn't it be nice to not have to load all of React just to show an updated cart value? Well, that's what I want to show you in this video. You ready? Let's jump in. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. Okay, so we've got a very, very simple example here that's showing a couple places where our cart items are going to be displayed, and then some kind of fake increment sections. So just to talk you through the HTML first, and then we'll spend most of our time on the JavaScript. You see here I've got a paragraph, but importantly, I have a span with a data cart total attribute. Now I've got the same basic thing right down here as well. That's why they look the exact same. Now in here, I've got a bunch of different products, kind of fake products, obviously, where I'm either removing an item or adding an item. Now, once again, I'm using a data attribute called data cart action, and I simply have a -1 for decrementing or a +1 for incrementing. We're going to use those to add to this total wherever we click these buttons. Okay, so with that said, let's kind of think through how we might update this state. Now, obviously, you're going to want to save this somewhere, whether it's local storage or some kind of cookie or wherever, but I'll leave that to you for now. All I'm interested in is the UI updating. Now, like with a lot of developers today, I kind of reach for something like React for this. But if the entire site is static, I really don't want to load all of React for essentially updating a number. And that's what we can do very simply with JavaScript. So I'm going to come over here and I've got an index.js file. And all we've done is grabbed all of our cart totals and we've grabbed the products as well. Now I'm grabbing the products just so we can use event propagation and then capture any clicks inside of here rather than setting it up on every single button down this way. So let's go ahead and start by adding some event listeners. All right, so the first thing I'm interested in is those products. So let's take our products. We're going to do add event listener. So this is on the entire UL where we'll listen for a click. Now, each time we click, we'll capture that event. And first of all, check to make sure that its data set includes the cart action attribute. So we'll say if event.target.dataset.cart action. Now, this brings up an important point about using data sets that I'll mention here, but let's first of all return out of here. You'll notice I'm grabbing the data set off of here, and this object includes all the different data attributes on this given element. Now you can see here, I'm using cart action, and it's got this uppercase right here. And notice over here, I've got a dash right here. Now, weirdly enough, if you go like this and you say cart action, this will be captured as cart action like that. So if you want it to be camel case, when you're grabbing it off the data set object, you have to actually include this dash here, and all capitalization like this will be ignored. So anyhow, that's an oddity about data sets. I'm sure there's something important why it's that way, but that's just the way it is. So all that to say, if it doesn't have the cart action attribute, we're going to jump out of there. Now, assuming that it does, eventually what I want to do is fire a custom event. Now, the point of this custom event is to then increment or decrement based on what I've clicked on. So let's go ahead and write that custom event, and that's kind of the point of this video. All right, so down here, I'm just going to call it update cart event. We're going to pass in the element, because the element, we're going to use that dataset attribute to actually update what it should look like, either adding or subtracting. Now, what I want to do is return a new custom event. So let's just implicitly return in this arrow function, this custom event, and I'm going to call it cart::updated. I like to use this colon syntax just because it's very clear what it's doing. So you've got whatever the thing is that's being fired against, essentially, and then whatever the action is. In this case, it would be updating. So for now, let's just do this. And I want to come over here and I want to take my event.target and I just want to dispatch an event. Now the event we're going to dispatch is our update cart event. And here I just want to pass it the event.target. So what we're doing is taking our target. This is the button that's clicked on, either plus or minus, or we're dispatching an event here. So we're firing an event, and the event we're firing is this one that we returned from our little helper function. So this is going to return to us a new custom event for this particular thing we've clicked on. Now, right now, we're not customizing it at all, so it's not super helpful yet, but I just want to show you kind of the general flow of what we're going to do. Now, the next thing we need to do is listen for the event. So let's start, first of all, by coming up top here. Now, I'm just going to use a for of loop. So here, let's call this const cart total of cart totals. Here, I just want to set a cart total.add event listener. We're going to listen for that cart update event. So cart update. And whenever that happens, all we're going to do for now is just say console log cart updated. Okay, does that make sense? So we're going to fire a new event. Here we're firing it against this event listener. Now, if I come over here and open up the console and I click, you're going to notice nothing happens. The reason that is because I'm firing an event here on this particular button, right? On the plus or on the minus, and I'm trying to capture it on something else entirely. So here we've got two different options. One, we can cause the event to bubble up. That means things higher up in the DOM tree can capture it. Or number two, we can set it here on all of these cart items every time we click. Once again, now we're starting to add a bunch of complexity here. So what I'd like to do is use that bubbling, and instead of capturing it on every single cart total, we're going to capture it just on the document itself. The document will then handle finding all the places where there's cart update, and it will update those for us. So first of all, let's go ahead and add some more data down here so that we can actually capture it on the document. Now, we get some options right here where we can pass in something, and this is called bubbles, and we're going to set it to equals to true. Now again, bubbling events are captured higher up in the DOM tree. So let's come over here, and instead of looping over these, what I want to do is grab the document.addEventListener. So we're going to listen for this event of cart update higher up in the DOM tree, right? So these cart totals aren't necessarily higher up in the same flow here, but the document obviously is the highest. So we should be able to capture them at the document and then update our cart totals. So all I want to do is capture this event, and then whenever this event fires, then I want to update all my cart totals. So for right now, let's console log this out, and then I want to just drag this thing up and undo it. Okay, so now whenever I click, it should capture it higher up in the DOM tree. So let's come over here. You'll notice it says cart updated, cart updated, cart updated, right? So it's firing an event on the actual button, but the document is the thing listening for it. And now what we can do is update all the items throughout our document that include the cart totals attribute. All right, hopefully that's making sense kind of what we're doing. So essentially with two event listeners and one custom event constructor, we can update everything throughout the entire DOM. All right, so let's come back over here. And now what I want to do is add one little extra thing. We've added bubbles true, but you can also actually send along data from the thing clicked to the event itself. And this is just called detail. Now for this detail, we can pass along whatever we want. So I could say like, yo, all right, now up here, what I can do is grab the detail off that cart update. So instead of saying cart updated, we need to grab the event, which means I need to actually capture it here, the event right here. And I just want to grab the detail off of that. Now it can be anything you want. You can pass anything you want. And you'll notice it says yo right here. So instead of passing on yo, why don't we pass along something useful like the l.dataset.cartAction. Now remember, we're passing the element in here, which means we can actually grab the cart action off here. In fact, if we want to make it even better, I guess we could just pass along the cart action directly right here, right? So this event.target, instead of passing along the entire target, I could pass along the dataset.cartAction. So I'm just going to pass on plus or minus, right? So if I come back over here, now I should be able to click. I get +1, here I get -1. Hopefully you can see just how close we are to actually getting this thing to update. So back over here, what I want to do is actually drag this for loop back up, but instead of listening for an event listener, all we're going to do is update each of the items in our cart totals array, or node list technically. So let's come over here. I'm going to get rid of all this. And the first thing I want to do is just get the new total, which would be whatever it currently is plus or minus whatever. Now, I could also set this as some kind of global variable as well, but I've only got a couple here. And on any given page for something like this, I might only have one or two. So for me, I'd rather keep this kind of all inside of this event listener. So let's call it something like new total. And I want to first of all grab the text content of that span. So let's go ahead and parse it, parse int. That way I make sure I have a number. This will be my cart total.text content. So in other words, for each item I'm looping through, I want to grab 0, right? And they should be the same or whatever it happens to be. So that, and then I want to add it to my parse int, and this is simply going to be my event.detail. So this will either be adding 1 or adding -1, which subtracts, right? So the last thing I need to do is go ahead and increment or decrement that number. Now, if it's below 0, I don't want to decrement it, right? I don't want to go into the negatives in my cart. So let's do one more thing, and that is to take our cart total. So for each of these items I'm looping through, I want to now update the text content, and I want to first of all check on my new total. Is my new total less than 0? If it is, then just return 0. This is just using a little ternary. Otherwise, I'm going to pass along my new total as the new number here. And technically, I could do like toString because it is a number, and that way we have a string, and the browser doesn't have to do that for us. Okay, so now if I come over here and click plus, it goes up like that. If I go down, eventually I hit 0, and I can't do anything anymore. Obviously, there's more UI things you may want to do here, like disabling buttons or all those kinds of things. You may want to track more beyond just the detail of whether it's incremented or decremented. So for instance, you might want to capture with another data attribute or something else what the item is. You can also do that. So these custom events are really powerful, especially if you just have little sections, little islands throughout your site that need to be updated in the DOM. But you don't want to have to load all of React or some kind of front-end UI framework to handle that. You can see with just a few lines of JavaScript now, anywhere in my entire site that adds another cart items, it would work automatically for. So I could come over here. Let's first of all just add more buttons, right? As long as they have this cart action on it of -1 or 1, that should work just fine. I could also come down this way. Let's add another one of these. It doesn't matter how many I have, because the way I set up those event listeners, it will just work, right? So any of these here, anywhere I use them, this event is being fired, the document is capturing it, and it's updating it all throughout the DOM. I hope custom events can become part of your vanilla JavaScript workflow. Especially if you're used to working with React, this might still seem like a lot of boilerplate, but I'll remind you that React is also loading a ton of data in. So I'd encourage you to at least try this out on a couple of projects where you just need small little UI improvements throughout the site, but you don't want to have to load all of React. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.